Hi everyone, I am Lizzie with the LizyT show, and I'm here with another guest. As I promised, I want to thank first of all of our sponsor. Thank you, Natasha, for sponsoring this show. This is amazing. Without your help, without the contribution, this show could not be possible. So we have here with us, as you can see, a very handsome boy, man. His name is Joseph, and Joseph has something on his lap right now, and I have what is this
sabre,
called?
the sabre.
A sabre on my head, and you're wondering what is going on. Actually, the ones that follow me, that probably are seeing our feed on social media, on Facebook and on Instagram, and I have a picture with him on my social media and on Instagram. Joseph is an Olympian, and we will ask him, how did you get started in the sport?
So this is called the sabre, and I do a sport of fencing. And a lot of people don't know, but there are 3 different weapons, and this is one of the 3. And the other 2 weapons are actually complete other sports that I've never done, and some people have never even seen this one because it's the most quick, aggressive one. And the way I started was totally by luck. Actually, I was a young kid, 12 years old, and I went to my high school. And the first day I showed up there to look and visit the high school, they showed us that they had a fencing program. I was like, wow, as a kid, you know, I liked Zorro, I liked Star Wars, and you know, I had those fake swords, but here they were hitting each other over the head with swords, and they were being applauded, and they were saying, keep doing it, you know, instead of being in trouble. So I was like, this is a dream for a little kid. And finally, I tried out for the team. I ended up making it. It was very tough because there was around 60 people I tried out, and they only could take 20. And I made the team, and since that time, I never looked back. 16 years later, I made the Olympics.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You were in Brazil representing Canada. How was that experience?
It's hard to describe because you have so much pride, and you've gone through so much trouble and problems and issues and ups and downs to get there. And not only was I there representing Canada, but my family was there as well with me in the opening ceremonies, watching me come into that sort of crazy circus. And they've been with me from day one, and it was very hard to describe that feeling. It's just this sense of satisfaction, fulfillment that it only happens when it's a very hard goal to attain, and you really appreciate it when you get there, you know. So it's a very unique feeling.
For the sport of fencing, how many hours do you actually have to train? And I guess there are special facilities that you train in order to get prepared for your competitions. Yeah,
so I'm from Montreal, and we have a special training facility in the Olympic Stadium. So the original Olympic Stadium of 1976 Olympics in Montreal, they have recreated some special facilities in there for 10 Olympic sports, and fencing is one of them, where we have like top-of-the-line facilities, physical trainers, medical staff, physiotherapists, and that's where I train most of my time. But I also have to go a lot abroad, a lot to Europe, because the top talent is there, all the competitions are there, so it's a very expensive sport because you're always traveling. And you always have to try and compete with the best, and they're all in Europe. So I was doing a lot of training camps for 6 weeks in Germany, in France, in Hungary, in different places to try and, you know, get to that next level, because that's the only way you can do it. They have really good systems there and good history. Wow. So I did that a lot. And it takes a lot of time, you know. So it's a full-time activity when you're going for an Olympics.
Right. Now the funding for all of this, and I know that you are being sponsored right now by the Bay. How do you, because a lot of people think, well, he's an Olympian, he's represented Canada, I guess you will probably get grants, but the reality sometimes is not fully that. No,
it's actually very the opposite of that, especially for sports like fencing, which are not televised a lot, and there's not a lot of international sort of sponsors or Canadian sponsors. My actual Federation of Canada doesn't pay anything for me right now. Like, they don't pay my trips, they don't pay my hotels. So the only way I was getting funding was there's a government funding that if you make it to the top 32 in the world, they start giving you some money. And I was using all that money to travel and compete and train. But every year you have to be top 32. If you have a bad year, your funding is cut. And it's very cutthroat, and if you have a bad time or some injury, you could lose it right away. So you could go from having all that funding to nothing. So that's why I was living at home a lot of the time while I was traveling and competing, because it just didn't make sense to move out. So it's very hard, and I got the Bay, a sponsorship from the Bay for the next couple of years, but it's still not enough if they cut the government funding, which is very variable. So very tough to make it. You don't hear about these stories a lot. You just hear about like sort of success, and you hear some Olympians who make a lot of money, but it's very, very few. And we do it really for the love of the sport mostly, and for the passion.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. You really gotta love this and be committed 150% in order for you to follow your dream. And for people that are watching us right now, they're wondering why fencing? Wouldn't you go into any other sport, or what is the passion?
Yeah, I was, as a kid, I don't know, I always liked sports that were like really intense, and I liked competition against other people. Like I really like having an opponent and trying to beat the opponent directly. And I played a lot of team sports as a kid, but I also did like kickboxing, and I don't know, it was just like a good transition. I liked it. And then I started having a talent for it, and when you start feeling that you could be good at something, you even want to train even more. And then for the times that you have difficulties or where you're not getting good results, you have to keep telling yourself that you have the potential and believe in that, and that's how you get through these moments. But at the end of the day, you always ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? And when the answer is always because I love this, because I really truly love this, then you keep going, But you always have to question yourself at that point, at those difficult points, why am I doing this? And know why you're doing it, and it makes everything much easier to get through.
And it paid off, because not only you had a medal in Rio, but the Panama Games, you guys received silver?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
congratulations.
So I didn't get a medal at the Olympics, but I did get at the Pan American Games in Toronto in 2015, 2 silver medals. And that was, of the whole continent of the North, South, Central America, all in the big competition. So, and I was ranked in the top 30 in the world. So it's very tough, because in Canada, like I said, we have very little resources. In the powerhouse countries in Europe, they have full programs, full funding, a group of training partners of at least 10 to 15 people who are always training together with, like, they don't have any thinking of, well, how am I going to pay for my next trip? Or so we have
everything is taken care of.
Yeah. They don't organize their own flights or hotels or things, and I have to organize all that as well. So I'm also a travel agent too on the side, But it's actually very difficult. So to get into that world and do good results like I did over my career, it's very rare, and I'm very proud of what I've accomplished.
And for the ones that are wondering what is fencing, and you probably haven't heard of that sport, we will have probably around here little videos of him competing, especially winning that beautiful silver medal for Canada. That's a huge and beautiful accomplishment. Now, it wasn't all roses. You had a serious injury. How did that affect your game? Yeah,
so it's interesting. In 2014, I graduated from McGill University in Montreal, and I was going to continue training, but now it was just full-time, no more school. I wasn't going to work. I was going to go full-time 2014 to try and get ready for the 2015 season, which is a year before the Olympics, and that's the year where you try to qualify. It's 1 year of qualification competitions. And as soon as I finished university, a week later, I was training for the World Championships in the summer, and we did a side activity to sort of cross-train of boxing, but it was very badly managed by the person who was doing it, and he made us sort of fight with each other for the first time ever. Like, he didn't want us to wear masks, and he said, oh, you just see how it's like. And he put us in the ring with other fencers, but of different weights or height, and I was against someone who was much heavier than me, and he punched me. And I didn't fall or anything in the moment, but I felt a little bit weird, like, okay, I think I'm gonna stop. And that hit sort of changed my life. I was unable to train anymore. I wasn't able to sleep for a month, insomnia. I couldn't go into public spaces with more than 3 people because the sound was bothering me too much. And I lost a lot of time because it took me months and months to go back. I was seeing, instead of training full time, instead of trying to get to the Olympics, because everybody was training full time around the world, I was looking at a ceiling at home. I couldn't watch TV, and I was going to see specialists 3 times a week to try and get over it. And it affects the same zones as a depression, a concussion. And I was, you wake up in the morning with a headache, and you don't even wake up, you don't sleep. So you're just thinking about it all night long. You have a headache when you wake up all day long, and you try to figure out how am I going to get out of this, and you don't see the end of the tunnel. You're like, I'm never going to get better. I'm not working, I'm not in school, I can't even train, I'm doing nothing. And a lot of the times you have you have situations where you can't see your friends anymore, you can't interact, you become so isolated that it's very, very hard to really see the positive. And at one point I wasn't even looking to come back to fencing. I was like, I just hope I'm better. I just hope I could reintegrate like society normally.
Back to the normal world.
Yeah, because I even lost a lot of friends at that time who I thought were maybe better friends than they were, who like after a while not being able to see them, they just sort of like drift off and you don't hear about them and they don't really, you know. So it was a life-changing injury, which I still have issues with today. I have a sound in my ear, sort of like a tinnitus that was always started buzzing, and I still get that today at night when I try to sleep, and also some memory issues as well. So it's one of the worst things I've ever had in my life, and I like to really talk about it because it's important to reach out to people who are going through this. It's so important to have support and understanding because everyone goes through it differently, but from the outside you can't see what someone is going through, and it's not an injury like you break your ankle or your arm and people see it.
A visual thing.
Yeah, and a lot of people who see it don't understand. It's very hard for people to understand it unless they've been through it, and that feeling of just what your brain being injured, that I really like to reach out and help in any way I can to people who have been through it as well.
And that's great that he's sharing this very intimate life experience with all of us. And if you are watching right now, if you know or you're going through something like that, please reach out to him. Where can people find you? One of the things that I love about talking with people like yourself, that you have a lot to share. I know you've been doing some public speaking.
Yes.
You show the world what fencing is all about, what you went through. For people that are watching, perhaps, where can they reach you at?
So I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. All of them, you just look at my name, Joseph Polossifakis. If you write that on any of those searches, you'll find me. I'm the only one. That's a very long Greek name, so it's hard to miss. Just have to know how to spell it right the first time, and then you're fine.
No worries. Well, we have it down here, all the links, and a bio on my YouTube channel for you to be able to reach out. For public speaking, if somebody is interested right now, perhaps we'd like to have them come and talk to you at your event or at your school. One of the things that I love when I met him and we were talking is the way he expressed about this sport. It's very, very dear to him. And if you don't know how to get into the sport, perhaps get in touch with him. So for people that are watching, you are open to do public speaking?
Yeah, I've done a lot of demonstrations for companies where you come in and you show employees how to do it. It's a very fun activity because you could get the equipment on and you could release a little bit of stress, but it doesn't hurt the other person because you're very well protected. So it's a lot of fun. And I've also talked a lot about my experiences as well of how you come back from failure, how you deal with adversity, how you go for goals, and that's something that you have to apply to anything, right?
Yes.
So it's very practical things. As an Olympian, you learn on the way indirectly because you're trying to get to this crazy goal, but on the way you learn all these things about failure, recovering from failure, coming back, and what's really important when times are tough, and how to deal with good times too, because the ups are what makes everything worth it as well at the end, right? When you get that up, all that downtime sort of goes away. You're like, it's all worth it now. So how do you deal with that as well? It's a very interesting journey, and I think everyone can learn something from it.
Now, you guys are probably wondering, for the ones that I have not seen, what the sport is all about. This is protection for your face, correct?
Yes, this is the most important part of the whole sport. You need this. This is the only way you could get on the fencing strip and be safe with it, because without this, you're pretty much gonna get something in the eye, and we don't want that. So, and it's cool because every country now you have their own customized sort of flag on your mask, and it's very cool at the international competition. You see like Germany versus Canada or Italy, and you have the mask, you have an electric vest on top with your name in the back and your country, and you have your weapon, and there you're good to go. That's all you need.
So what would you say the best age to get into the sport?
I mean, I started at 12, but you could always start earlier. In Europe, the programs are there a lot, and kids start at like 8.
Wow.
Like anybody knows, any high-level sport, the younger you start, the better you'll get. It takes so much to get good at this, because you could spend your lifetime getting good, perfecting the technique, which is so important. But if you don't understand distance and tempo and timing of an opponent and adapting to their rhythm and seeing what works, what doesn't work, and when to use the actions that you do, that's a whole other set of understanding what fencing is. Because just getting good at the technique takes forever. But if you're good at the technique but don't know how to apply it or when to apply it, you're useless. So there's so many elements that have to combine at the same time that it takes a long time to get good at it. And the earlier you start, the better.
Well, as you can see, it's not as easy as you think, but if you love it, if you're interested, reach out to us, reach out to stories. And how about a book? Are you thinking of writing a book?
Honestly, I have so much in my head of things that I've learned, things I've done on the way, and like I've been trying to write them down as principles that I've learned to apply to help others, and I really think it's something I've been trying to consider, sort of lessons from an Olympian and things that you learn on the way. I think it's very important for myself to write it down as well, because when you're going through it, you don't really understand what's going on, but when you look back, you really start to, okay, well, I did this and this happened, and this is something I really learned as a lesson which works out in every aspect of life. So I have been thinking of writing a book. I just need to find sort of the time and the commitment, but I have enough material to write a book.
Well, I think a book will be a perfect ending for this I'll
come back next time with my book here, talking about my book today.
And not only that, it could help a lot of sport people and a lot of Olympians. They're going through probably similar things, and if you can give them tips, things that they can help themselves with this probably same situations that you went through.
Exactly. A lot of people, and that's what I realized when you get to the Olympics, everybody around you is a special person, because they're not either the most talented or fastest, they just kept going when things got tough and didn't give up, and they all have some kind of story of some crazy thing that happened to them, and like, why would you keep going? And like, that's such an interesting topic to talk about, because you're like, what drives these people and what makes you keep going through these obstacles and problems, and that's what makes you an Olympian. It's not about being the fastest, tallest, strongest, because there's Olympians of every size and every height and every color and every race in the Olympic Village. It's a utopia. It's a village of the world, all in one small village, and every type of person you'll ever meet. So what differentiates them is that they just kept going when everybody else was quitting.
And one of the things that I love about what he said is not just for an Olympian, but if you're a singer-songwriter, if you're a coach, if you want to write that book, take those words of advice. I think they're gold nuggets. I want to thank you, Joseph, very much for being here, and it's been such an honor. Keep watching, everyone. I'm your host and one of the producers of the LizyT show. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you for having me.